next storyteller is a comedian and writer-performer. She is a hilarious and passionate voice for authenticity. Heather Gold appears in colleges, venues, and media across North America, including UCLA, Google, SF Sketchfest, South by Southwest, among others, NPR, and CBS's Definitely Not the Opera. She's best known for her interactive and conversational style, and she has baked over 50,000 cookies with audiences in her hit show, I Look Like an Egg, But I Identify as a Cookie, which was selected by the Oakland Tribune as Best of the Bay and won Curve Magazine's Lesbian Theater Award. Please join me in welcoming Heather Gold.
Thank you, Kara. Hello, Mill Valley. I'm blown away by you, I just have to say. So close to San Francisco yet. First of all, what incredible taste in libraries you have. As you know, I grew up, I was like, when a nerd, this is where I hid out. That was like my fort. Let me go to the library. No one will touch me there. So they're like my synagogue, So I feel very happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Kara. So let's see, where will I start? Probably I'm just going to guess, like a lot of half of the population, I had a marriage just surprisingly not work. You may have experienced this. One day, you're married, the next day, you're so clearly not going to be married. And in my case, that necessitated leaving quite quickly, and I was living in Long Island, so it was kind of a bonus in a way. I got to leave Long Island. Are you guys from Long Island? No? I was inspired with, yes, you're from there? What's your name? Oh, no? It's all right. You were from there. I was living in Huntington, near Ronkonkoma. I can't even pronounce all the names of the Ronkonkoma, really near Ronkonkoma. I've lost my accent. I used to do really good garlic sauce with garlic knots and Parmesan, everything sauce. And 3 years in Long Island persuaded me that the Bay Area, especially Berkeley, maybe Mill Valley too, but for sure, I thought Berkeley is like the opposite of Long Island. Everyone here just left and went, what's the farthest I can get from Long Island, and it's here, and how can I do everything the opposite of Long? And that sort of explained Berkeley to me. All of a sudden, it seemed less odd to me, including the deli, sadly, the Bay Area. It's a sad state for Jews. I love it, but seriously, so often felt like I was the only Jew in San Francisco, the only one who was not a Buddhist, the only one. The rest of you, I know about you. You're all calm on the outside. So this marriage ends very quickly, and I get to leave the home of anxiety for the world, Long Island. It's the official language there, is anxiety, pretty much. But then I have nowhere to live. I have nowhere to live, which I hadn't thought about, and I lived, literally, I think I stayed in about 50 places in 2 years. You're very lucky if you have a home. It was really difficult, and I went from Toronto, where it is very hard to find a place, and then I went to Burning Man, which I hadn't been to in a while, and threw my rings in the fire, which was awesome, and had a revelation I had to be back here, so I came back. And then I was like, San Francisco, I loved you so much, but it has changed in the scant time I've been away, and I can't, so I was looking for a place to live, and in the time in between I'd, fallen in love, and my girlfriend was with me, and so all of a sudden, I'd schlepped her into this, hi, we're gonna be in a new place till we can find the next place. So the first place, I was determined to try to not have to move too much, like just one spot that I could search from, so I was very careful on Airbnb. You guys know it? Yeah, what it is? Does anyone not know it? Because I will explain, because I don't want people to have no clue. Someone doesn't know, okay. I usually ask people's names, because if I talk to you again, I just want to know your name, but I don't want you to be humiliated or anything. So, you were one of the people who doesn't know? You look very happy, though, in the back with the white shirt. Airbnb. You do know it. You don't know it. Do you want to tell me? You don't have to tell me your name. I'm scared now to ask. What's that? Sonia. And Sonia's happy. Sonia's meditated her way into happiness. Okay. Sonia, it's an internet website where you go and people rent out rooms in their house, sometimes the whole house for when you're not there. And it's very beautifully designed, and the interface is all lovely, and you sort of are like, it's less expensive than a hotel. So if you're going to New York for a couple nights and you want to stay in the East Village and it's $400 for a hotel, you could stay in this beautiful loft for $250 a night, right? It's great if you're in that kind of range financially. But I needed a place for like months because I knew it was going to be a long time to find a place and I didn't want to have to schlep around anymore. So I find a place, Sonia, on Airbnb. It looks really beautiful. Great pictures. It's in the Haight. I've never lived in the Haight before, but why not? So I Skype with the woman who runs whose place it is, and she seems really nice. She's a sex therapist. I haven't been in San Francisco in a while. I've been in Long Island. I'm like, oh, I'm nostalgic, a sex therapist, burlesque dancer. Oh, thank God. I've missed people like you. I'm sure I'll feel really safe and happy and at home. Oh, and my partner, he composes operettas. I'm like, great. You're totally my creative people. But I was like, the truth is, part of what's a little bit tricky when you're staying in all these places and your life sort of fell apart is occasionally you need to cry. You can't really. You're like, hi, I'm your guest. But, you have to go for a run and cry and then come back and be a good guest. So she seemed nice. She was a therapist. I'm like, that's a good sign. It'll all be good. And I get there. We get into San Francisco. We go right to the place in the Haight. And she texted me. It's the day before New Year's Eve. I'm not going to be there for a week, but my boyfriend's there. He'll take care of you. Don't worry. But there'll be some company the first night because it's New Year's Eve. So that seems fair company. So we get there. He's like, yeah, I'm going to have friends. They're up all night, and it's pretty loud. But I'm like, it's no big deal. Then I ask him for a parking permit because it's San Francisco, you need a parking permit. And then he looks at me like, why do you want something from me? I'm paying, by the way, I should mention, all of his rent. And for the whole place, that's something people are starting to do in Airbnb, which is we've got an extra room, we don't use it, we're going to rent it for a lot. Because the average rent, I don't know if any of you have looked for a place, but the average rent in San Francisco, average is now $2,900 for a one-bedroom apartment. That is not an expensive rent, that is an average rent. Yes, you'll hear where I end up. So I'm in there. He looks at me like, what do you want with a parking permit? I'm like, well, paying you for your place, need a place to park. That seems really irrational and weird to him that I want something from him. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, I'm flexible. I should mention that when he greeted us at the door, he's bald on top, but like by choice, bald by choice. Very long beard, ZZ Top style beard. ZZ Top for the Canadian. And he's wearing a double-breasted kind of leopard dressing gown, and he looks like he weighs about 89 pounds. Half of it's beard. And so he's very angry all the time, but okay. And then he kind of was like, okay, you can have this shelf and this shelf in the fridge. We move our little bags into the bedroom. And you get the distinct feeling he doesn't really want me to be there. He'll loan me and somebody else. And we go into the washroom, and there's no toilet paper, and there's a little scruffier. The other rooms are beautiful, just like in the photograph, but he likes to hang out in the other rooms. We're supposed to be in this little room. So here we're in the little room, and we kind of go out, and I try to take care of things. Like I'm supposed to go down and get the parking permit, planning everything. Then the first night, I hear this noise, and I think, okay. You can't really see in a tour. I got a video tour of the place on. I thought I was being so smart. I thought out everything. You can't see sound. I hadn't thought about that. And I can hear everything through the wall, everything. And I had noticed when we moved in, he has this giant 4-poster bed. Did mention bald by choice, crazy little, kind of like maybe he would wear an ascot or something. So I hear this repetitive, I don't know how G-rated we have to be. Kara, it's okay, I don't. It seems pretty like an adult library. I hear this like rhythmic sound, and it wouldn't even be that bad if it were the rhythmic sex sound I thought it was. But then I hear this sound that is, sadly, I lived in San Francisco long enough, the flogging sound. Have you ever been woken by the flogging sound at 4 in the morning? There was nothing on the Airbnb thing about flogging in the rules about living in this house. And you know, of course, like a good Bay Area person, I have nothing against flogging. If flogging is what you want, but I have something for sleeping. I'm a fan of sleeping, and there's no consensual listening. I don't get a safe word in the flogging relationship with Baldy. And also, his girlfriend's not there, which is like, oh my God, it was really, my girlfriend woke up and saw me at 3 in the morning, like just wide-eyed. It's very hard to fall back to sleep, you know, with the sound. So then the next night, there was a new sound. It was just a talking sound, but it was still very loud. And I got up in my kind of fuzzy, I have duck pants. That's my counterweight to his cheetah outfit. My fluffy duck pants make me look like a 70-year-old before my time. And I'm like, hey, you know, guy, I know you think it's all chill and you're like with your roommates and it's all fine, but we're not your roommates. We're paying your rent and I can't sleep. And he's sitting there with his girlfriend number 3. Maybe girlfriend number 1 knows about her. I don't know. Could be consensual. Could be part of their rules of their house. Entirely likely. But you need to not do this so I can go to sleep. And he just doesn't want to hear anything from me. He just gives me that really deep, seething hatred that I thought was reserved for like Canadians in traffic. This is how Canadians, you know, I know you don't think they're very aggressive. It all comes out if you go to Canada. Just try and cross the street in Toronto against the light and you'll get a lot of, it's like the entire defense strategy of Canada is just angry, passive-aggressive staring. So I've had enough of this place. We pack our stuff in the middle of the day the next day and just leave. You know, I'm like, I get back as much money as I can, and I don't know, I'm still waiting to write my review of the girlfriend for the other girlfriend on Airbnb. And I tweet to find another place, but I've got another place I have to stay, so I'm tweeting like somewhere I have nowhere to stay, and this guy comes to my rescue, and he's this nerd, and he's great, and he used to work for Next, and I think he's lovely, and we have this great conversation about Steve Jobs, and isn't that awesome, and we're bonded, great, we're gonna stay at his place, they have this extra room, he and his wife, how nice, and it's beautiful, it's overlooking the Pacific Ocean. So there we are, we're trying to figure out, once again, I try to be really clear, I need to know, before I go to the next place, that I can stay till I find an apartment. Like, I need to not move again in another week, because it's a little crazy moving every week. Okay, so we're there, we're in this room, it's like I'm living in a yoga studio, it's just one giant room. Okay, but here's some of so he's great. He's so sweet, like, whatever you want, that's great. Now, I'm a little confused by him, because I think half the time he's a trans man. This would reflect sort of the world I've been living in, the queer world. I'm making this very adult now. Sorry, is that all right? And I've been confused, like my whole gender relationships to the world have changed sufficiently. I spent a long time in San Francisco. So I don't know a lot of 40-year-old men that buy themselves a grand piano for their 40th birthday for straight guys. But you could just be sweet and Jewish. You know, it's a fine line between Jewish and gay. Very fine. And he's like, great, just live here. And his handwriting like Liberace, this guy. Like, very lovely. And his wife is a whole different thing. Because she gets to make the decisions, turns out. We negotiated what we thought were the rules with him, and we get there, and she's got a whole different thing. All right, well, first of all, you got to use the refrigerator. We've got one safer. You got to go around. You can't come through the house because I'm a poet. And I work like a maniac. Her words. So you can't come through my office. I'm working. You gotta go around. Go around. And so we're walking like around in the cold in the duck pants to the fridge in the garage to get the Brussels sprout or whatever you can make in the rice cooker because there's no kitchen back in the other yoga room that we're living in. You can do a lot of things with a rice cooker, but you know. So, all right. Then she discovers that we write. Well, I'm a writer. Did I tell you I'm a writer? Maybe I could help you. I've published a few pamphlets. Very smart about these things. Also, you should know I did have a former life with women. Which is an interesting way of putting it. I'd never heard it put that way before. So we have sort of a bond, but we're still doing it because we're such renegades. So here you go. And then occasionally she would walk up to my girlfriend and say, because the laundry is also in the garage that we're walking to in the cold. Here's your girlfriend's underwear. Like, I've left the women behind, but I just want you to know, here it is. Can you see it? It's right here. Yes, we can. We're trying to be unobtrusive. We're trying to follow her, like we're eating in the right place, and we're moving things around, and we're trying to help her out when guests are coming because they rent also an Airbnb room downstairs. We're trying to greet the people when they come, but then they have no kitchen. It's very hard when you try to spell out, here's where things are. That's kind of how rules work. Like, we're going to try and spell it all out so we're all clear, but it never seems to work because they change. You know, yes, we'd love to have you here for as long as you need to be here, and you can park your motorcycle in the garage. No, it's incredibly smelly. You need to move it. It's difficult, and having a headache, and he needs to use this room. It's very important. So, okay, so then we have to move again. All right. Where are we going to go? So then we're like looking for more and more places. We rent another place in Potrero Hill, where it seems more formal and like an actual agreement. Oh, in the process, before we get to Potrero Hill, we're looking for more and more places, and we come across other women, lesbians. Used to be called just women, spelt it 400 ways back in the 80s. When everyone was scared of lesbians, I miss those days. We had so much power then. So we go to stay in this place, or we think we're going to stay in this place because it's huge, and one of them has to move out somewhere, and so it's like a condo. It's a giant building full of elderly Asian people who are the quietest people in the world, and it's full of all kinds of these lovely amenities. Indoor parking, I've never seen such a thing. So we're excited about it. I'm like, I never thought I wanted these things, but now it sounds great. An exercise room, fantastic. I'm happy to be middle-aged all of a sudden. Great. But then she shows us the place. We walk into it. We'd be sharing with her because there's 2 suites on either side, so we sort of just would share the middle. The middle is a living room, but it's really a Pottery Barn catalog. And I'm not exaggerating. It is impeccable. There's not an ounce of dust. There is a artwork on the wall, framed, a giant fork, knife, and spoon. Usually the kind of artwork you see in the lobby of a 2.5-star motel, but here in the living room, maybe a dish with some shapely circular rocks that have all been softened the right way with an ostrich egg on it, you know, the kind of thing you didn't really expect to see in a home. So it turns out she's the manager of the Pottery Barn catalog. She has all their stuff, and it's right there, and it's just put together, and everything's together, and the kitchen is gorgeous. But it's gorgeous because, well, turns out she doesn't really cook so much in it. And yeah, I don't really eat meat. And, oh, you can no problem have meat. I can't see it. I have to not see it, but you can have it somehow. And of course, right away, I'm like, I'm gonna wear the Lady Gaga dress the next day with a couple of, it never occurred to me to show meat to somebody. Like, hi, I wanna look at it, but now that I know, it's really a problem. Anyway, she doesn't cook. The place is immaculate because every day she confesses she eats the same thing. Every day. Breakfast, a cup of yogurt. Lunch, 5 cherry tomatoes and a piece of string cheese. Dinner, 1 sweet potato. She has a sense of humor about it, but still, she's like, I could tell you my groceries $52 a week. I'm like, I don't know what to do. That right away, that was it for me. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to cook a brisket in the kitchen of the sweet potato lady and overcome all of my need to offer it 8 times, even though I know you don't want it, but because I think I'm being considerate, because that's how I got raised. So yeah, that place didn't work out. We end up in a place that looks more like a formal rental, so we think the rules are clear, right? Like, here's the contract, you pay this much money, you stay this long, no problem. And it is like pretty set out. It has, there's dishes, there's a sink, they're right there near us. There's a fridge. It's very exciting. At this point, little things become thrilling. But we didn't know about rules for them. So even though it's nice for us, the neighbor, who has this huge house, tends to get up 2 feet away from the wall where we sleep. And, it's all Bob Edwards and Sylvia Poggioli, who I love, but it's 6:15 in the morning when you're a comic. It's not. And then And then they have a 2-year-old, which I didn't know about. And I haven't gotten to have a 2-year-old, but I've been told by other people 2-year-olds this isn't that weird, but it seemed weird because the 2-year-old one day, about a week into this stay, decides that he has to scream all night. From the beginning to the end, never ending, and only for Daddy. I'd love to know what's going on, never for Mommy. Daddy! So again, I don't know, flogging 2-year-old, like there's been very little sleep happening. At this point, we just give up on San Francisco. I mean, I lived there 12 years. I wanted to live there, but I'm telling you, it was really hard to find a place. And we start looking in the East Bay. We go, yeah, who's from East Bay? Woo! Let's hear it. Berkeley? Oakland. Okay. First we look in Berkeley. We find this place, it's like a brand new, unfinished. It was going to be a condo, but he couldn't sell it, so now it's going to be just a really fancy 2 or 3 little apartments. And it seems really great. It seems so great we can't believe it. And then we meet this guy at a bar that he owns. Turns out he owns like half of Berkeley. He seems so casual and funky and chill. I forgot about the Berkeley, Long Island to Berkeley thing. I thought he's just like a guy with his hiking boots and his tank top meeting us in a bar and buying us a drink to be our landlord. And he seems so relaxed, but then he owns like all this housing, and all this housing students must live in, because this is a very grown-up place we're looking at, until we get the contract. And the contract has like 45 points in it. There's rules for everything, including no hair in the toilet, and you can only have 8 people for dinner, no alcohol to minors. I really wasn't planning on me, but if you know, kids come over at Shabbos, no circumcisions in the living room. And no, you have to get written permission to have more than 10 people over. If 9 people are over and coming and one wants to bring someone else, you can't just be like, sure. You have to be like, let me fax my landlord first. So, I mean, it seemed to be getting closer, but we finally ended up in West Oakland. Not West Oakland. Joe tells me it's not officially West Oakland. It's practically Berkeley because it's safe for a white girl. But anyway, it's sort of between Temescal and Piedmont, as my Canadian friend likes to call it. It sounds so luxurious, though, doesn't it? It's the Canadian version of Oakland. And this place is nothing but sun. It's beautiful. It's giant and open. We have this view. You can see the Golden Gate Bridge from it. It's amazing. It's like a third of a place in San Francisco. It costs so much less, which is kind of a way to make things feel inexpensive. Just look first in San Francisco, and they're like, this is a deal. And they're totally reasonable. They're like these wonderful lesbians who've been together for 43 years and met in a high school and math club. How incredible is that? And they're still together, and they were social workers, and I'm like, I just want to like come like make kugel for you and hang out, and are you guys okay? I love them. And then they want to know what they can do for us. So the most amazing thing about it is not only they're like, when half an hour, like, we're just going to get an ice cream, but we want it right away. And they just call it, we just like you so much. You can move in. I'm like, oh my God, you have no idea how many, really, I lived in 50 places. This was a machaya, which I will translate for the apparently only 8 Gentiles in the room. Just like a miracle. It was a miracle that I got this, that this place was so beautiful, and our landlords were amazing. And the lease was just not much to it at all. And then we got to make rules, which is how I realized, like, we would like to have the broken garage door replaced, which is happening next Wednesday. They're like, bam, boom, new garage door, no problem. And the light broke. Okay, new light. We have our guy. I'll come in next week. So we got to say how we wanted things to be. And they've been happening. It's sort of amazing. So I've learned from this that home is where you get to make the rules. Hopefully not too many. Thank you very much.